conclude tonight our study on walking with Abraham, but not on the series, okay? Just on Abraham. I think I've spent something like 3 weeks, right? 3 weeks on this one, but it's important because Abraham is the father of faith. So I will just look tonight on the subject of Abraham's walk with God, and that is the testing of Abraham, okay? Because the testing of Abraham gives us some lessons on our testings also. Now, there are many tests that came through the life of Abraham, but chapter 22 of Genesis is the most known of all the tests because of the demand of the Lord to sacrifice his son Isaac. Okay? Now, there are other tests. If I have time tonight, I'll touch one or two more. But if not, I'll be happy just discussing this. Genesis chapter 22, starting on verse 1. After these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, here I am, he answered. Take your son, he said. Now look at the detail, okay? Take your son, your only son, Isaac. How many sons does Abraham have? In God's eyes, how many sons does he have? You see the difference there? It says, God never looked at Ishmael as Abraham's son. You see, sometimes we think we do something and it will force God to agree with us. God is not like that. God will never control your will, but if you do something according to your will, it's your action, not God's. As far as God is concerned, what you have rightfully is what God gave you. What you have achieved personally without God is yours. It's not God's. And so when the Lord says, your only son, to this time, the only son that God accepts is Isaac. I can go off tangent on this one. You know, the universalists today say that everybody is God's son. No, that's a lie, okay? That's a lie. In God's eyes, Ishmael is not Abraham's son. As an heir, as the seed, okay? Not. He said, your only son, Isaac. And so, don't go along with all of this. Well, everybody believes. No, not everybody believes. Not everybody has. The Bible says, by the way, not everybody has faith. And so universalism is an evil that the enemy was able to spread around, deceiving the people that every way leads to God. No, not every way leads to God. The only way that leads to God is Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Okay. Whom you love, go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will tell you. Now, we can call this as the test of who you love the most. Okay? I guess if you ask a Christian, whom do you love the most? Readily we will say, without thinking, God, or Jesus. Now, I preface the statement with saying, without thinking. I have found out through the years that most people don't really think. They act on the influence of others. And I was telling you, for example, in our last elections, how can a Christian vote for a progressive? They're the most destructive force against a faith right now on earth. And there's no telling what they will believe next. But Christians do these things without thinking. And we have to start being mindful of what is coming out of our lips in our lives. So, now that the dream son of Abraham was born, and he's now around 30 years old at least, the son that is looking for, his only begotten son through Sarah, is now the center of the test. So this is also a test of faith. Not only of whom you love the most, but a test of what you believe. Okay, again, as I said earlier, whom do you love the most? The polite answer is God. But that is a lie, okay? Because most people will abandon God over other things that they love more than they love God. I mean, why would the Lord give us a command, love the Lord your God with all your heart, if we love Him already with all our hearts? I told you a command is given because a violation is being done, okay? So when He says, believe in me, it's because we don't believe in Him. Okay, so now, this is the test of love, this is the test of faith. A test is not a temptation. A test is for the one being tested. So if the Lord is testing you, a lot of people say, well, God is testing me. Do you even know what you're talking about? So when you say God is testing you, there are at least 3 things that are being tested. Number 1, God will test you for you to see where you are in your relationship with God. Okay? Where you are in your relationship with God. My wife was giving you guys the illustration when we were already dating, and we're going to go to there was a court hearing on his court case against Queensland Futures. And we were in this small elevator in SEC, and her dad was there, you know. Now, my wife at that point pretends she loves me most, okay? And I am deliberately saying pretends, because it was a pretense. And sometimes when you are pretending, you don't even know you're pretending. So her dad was there and said, choose. And he doesn't care if I'm there, if my feelings are hurt. He just doesn't care. He said, and you choose, me or him. Okay, now when we're together, she loves me the most. Now, right there in that small elevator, me or her, me or him. And my wife immediately, without much thinking, chose her dad. It was a trap. It was a bad question. She shouldn't have fallen for it, but it was a trap. She chose her dad. Now what happened to she loves me the most? It was a pretense, you see. Now the pretense continued. The following day, she sent her driver to send me a card apologizing. Apologizing for what? Because in reality, if you are just thinking a little bit, that small incident demonstrates the level of love that you have for somebody. She should have been happy to know that actually she doesn't love me the most. Her love for her dad was still stronger than her love for me. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, because love grows. Are you following me? Or you don't want to follow me? Because love grows. The problem is most people are hypocrites. They won't accept what is. Okay, they will not accept what is. So I remember when we saw each other again, she was profusely apologizing, and I wouldn't mind it. I just, forget it. Because for me, right there is a demonstration. The love is still growing. It has not reached that level. Remember when Jesus asked Peter, do you love me? Do you agape me? Peter said, yes, Lord, I phileo you. Agape is the highest form of love. Peter has not achieved it yet. Okay? He has not achieved it yet. And Jesus accepted it. Why? Peter is still immature. You see, it's not a right or wrong thing. It's a state of being. Are you following me? It's a state of being. Some of you, if I ask you right now, do you love your mom? Do you love your dad? Your polite answer is yes. Really? Really? Do you really love your mom or your dad? Really? Most husbands, you ask them, do you love your wife? Yes, I love my wife. Most wives, do you love your husband? Yes, until a test is presented, and the test demonstrates whom you love the most, the depth of your relationship with God. Now, God would not test Abraham in this area unless his love is already there. Abraham is trying to solicit. When you are being tested, it is also the best time for the devil to walk in. You know, one of the characteristics of the devil that I have learned in the scriptures is he talks without being asked to talk. Okay? And so, he's not part of the conversation. And so, at that point, the enemy can come in and tempt you. God is testing you, but the enemy can tempt you to back off. Well, that's your son. And demonstrate, not knowing that you have the capacity to love God more than you love your son, and be tempted to back off and say, well, I love my son more than I love God. You see, it's a test. It's a test of relationship. How deep is your relationship with God? And there's a constant test that beset us. And the moment that comes to us, it demonstrates the depth of our relationship with God. You know? Again, if I ask a general question, do you love God? Most people will say, yes. Do you love Him the most? Yes. Then what happens next? Demonstrates whether you do or you don't. It's not a right or wrong. It's a state of the depth of your love for God. Now, if you know that you are Peter and you don't agape God yet, you phileo Him, then you work on it. Because your relationship with Him, as you walk with Him, will continue to go deeper and deeper. And there comes a point wherein Peter agape Jesus. He was willing to die for Him. The highest form of love is to give your life for the one you love. Okay, so, and that's the kind of love that God wants the husbands to demonstrate for their wives. Do all husbands achieve that? No. No, not all husbands achieve that. Why? Because they did not work on developing that type of love for their wives. Second, to what the second test will show also. So the first one is the depth of his relationship with God. Second is, it demonstrates the extent that his faith has grown. I mean, sooner or later you've got to know how great or how small your faith is. Okay? One sick person say, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. He knew his faith has not grown to the level that it can believe God for what he needs. Some people, they cannot believe God for what they need. Their faith is not at that level yet. Again, it's not a right or wrong. It's the state of growth of your faith. You don't look at a tomato tree that just came out of the ground, it just sprouted and say, give me tomatoes. No, that will be wrong. Because the growth of the tomato has not gone at that level. You nurture it, you nourish it until it can give you tomatoes. Now, it is important for us to know the depth of our love for God and how much our faith has grown. Why? Because there is always a demand on your faith. And you need to know how much you can exert or how much you can. Joel is asking me for so long, Papa, I want to work with you. And I will tell Joel, I need you to be at least 100 pounds. Okay, because some of my tools are almost 100 pounds. So I told Joel, you need to be at least 100 pounds. Now, is there something wrong with Joel? No. He is growing. Now, the time will come where he already did. And so I already told him, this summer you will work with me. He's over 100 pounds. He can do a lot of things now that I am expecting he can do. But if he is 50 pounds, will I scream at him, you 50-pound midget? I'm not going to do that. You see? I'm not going to do that. Why? That will be wrong. Because he is 50 pounds. What I need to work on is to make sure that he eats. So I will tell Joel, eat meat, eat a lot, eat this, eat that. Why? I want him to grow to 100 pounds. Because if he doesn't grow to 100 pounds, he will not be that useful to me. But he needs to grow to a certain weight so that he can handle the pressure that I am about to extend. Now, I'm a little bit comfortable now with John preaching when I'm not around. He had grown that much. But when he was a little kid, I don't have any comfort level. Now, is he wrong? No. That is your level. Okay? That is your level. Now, God will put demands on your faith. Faith always acts When God tells you to do something, it's a demand on your faith. If you cannot execute, then it demonstrated how much your faith has grown. And it should be something that you should look at and say, wow, my faith is still small, or my faith has grown. I should make it grow. It used to annoy me when I pray to the Lord for food. I don't know why it did, but it really did. In the Philippines, I used to be upset with myself. Why am I'll tell the Lord, how come you say, seek ye first your kingdom and your righteousness and all these things you'll be. How come I'm praying for food? I used to ask God that. Well, my faith is that now I have not prayed for food, perhaps in a couple of decades. My faith has grown. It is at the point that I know God provides those things, you see. But it was not always like that. But you see, I have to be honest before the Lord, and I have to be honest to myself. Do not fool yourself. Because if you are 50 pounds and you brag that you're 150 pounds and somebody gave you a load of 100 pounds to carry, you will suffer. You'll break your back. You need to say, no, I cannot take that yet. I'm 50 pounds. Give me something lighter. I'll be able to take it. Because that will be an honest assessment of where you are in your walk with God. Okay, third, it is also a test that you can determine how far have you walked with God. You know, how far have you walked with God? Now, if you are a student, for example, of engineering, your first year. Now, I don't know the confidence level of Eliza here. What if somebody talked to Eliza and says, take my case? What would you say? You say, what case? Case of root beer or Coke, you know? She has not grown that far. You see? She has not grown that far. Now, if she graduated law degree, passed the bar exam, had been an apprentice with somebody, then she had walked with the law for some time. So when somebody says, take my case, she'll be thinking, I have assisted in that kind of case 10 times and we have won the cases. I have confidence I can take it. You see? Now you have known how far you have walked. When I was new in the faith, my pastor rebuked me at one time because a big-time evangelist came to our church, and we're going to have crusade outside, and he wants me to interpret. My confidence level has not grown yet during that time. So I told my pastor, no. And I recommended a very famous Filipino pastor who's very known for interpreting. I said, let's call him. He's an Assemblies of God minister. Let's call him. Let's tell him to interpret. And my pastor just rebuked me. You know, and he said, you have been interpreting for me. You have been interpreting for some people. What's the difference between our English and his English? And he said, it's just English. But I have no confidence. I don't want to go on the stage because this guy tapes it. This guy puts it on camera. He has the promotional videos about his ministry. Some people will grab the opportunity of being on TV. I did not. I just did not. And my pastor just rebuked me and gave me words that opened my eyes. I never thought I have walked that far yet in the ministry. Now some people, even if they cannot, you give them something, they say, yes, I'll do it, and they make a mess out of it. Well, you have to assess where you are at in your walk with God. And so the test of faith will test whom you love the most. How far has your faith grown? And how far have you walked with God? Those are three very important areas, okay? No right and wrong answer, only an assessment. An assessment is neither right or wrong. It's just an assessment. It's a demonstration of where you are. Now, God told Abraham to go to the land of Moriah and offer Isaac there in one of the mountains as a burnt offering, okay? There were no guessing games in God's will. Clearly, when God says, I want you to offer your only son, Isaac, whom you love. Very clear. There is no second guessing. What God was telling Abraham is, Abraham, your son will die. There are no living burnt offerings. So when he says, offer him as a burnt offerings, what do you think will he be thinking? A burning Isaac. Now it's not just another obedience to a command. You will see your son burn. What does the priest do as the sacrifice is burning? What does the priest do as the sacrifice is burning? What? Huh? Worship. I mean, I never heard it, but it came out of your wherever. But worship. You thank God. Well, the sacrifice is burning. You worship God. You thank God for the sacrifice. You thank God for the acceptable sacrifice. Now, who among the dads will look at their son burning and lift their hands to the Lord? Thank you that my son is. Maybe some people will be thankful their son is dead, but this is different. Lord, thank you that you are accepting my son as a sacrifice. Thank you for this burnt offering. That accompanies the offering of sacrifice. Now, this is God saying, your son is dead. Now, can your faith take it? Can your relationship with God take it? Have you walked far enough with God that this is something that you can live with? So God made it known in no uncertain terms. Isaac is dead. Now, earlier, we saw how God made it clear that the seed is coming from Abraham through Sarah, not from anyone else. So Isaac is the seed, and Abraham is, at this point, around 127 years old, at least. Okay? Now, Abraham never lost faith that he will have children, because after Sarah died, he's got children. Okay? But through Sarah. If Sarah was old at the age of 90, at the age of 120, is she old? Older. Maybe not older, oldest, If it was very difficult to believe God for a son at 65 when they began on their trip. If it was very difficult, much more difficult at over 100 years old, And Isaac is already. By the way, general consensus is shortly thereafter, after this, Sarah died. In fact, some people, the farthest that I've read is the year after. But most commentators will say that same year, Sarah died. Before she died, Isaac died. Okay? That's just what happened here. So Isaac is the fulfillment of God's promise. It's a fulfillment of prophecy. Now, if Isaac is the fulfillment of prophecy, if he is the fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham, what can we learn from this? The idea is God answered your prayer. The moment God answered your prayer, you are asking God for a house, you're asking God for a spouse, you're asking God for a job, or some other blessings that you deemed important for your daily life. And the Lord answered your prayer. The moment God answered your prayer, there has to be a different perspective that you will put on the answer to God's prayer and God. Okay? So this is what we can learn. First, nothing and no one can and should stand between you and God. Nothing and no one. Okay? It doesn't matter if it's God's answer to your prayers. Nothing and no one should stand between you and God. Now, I have told you about this female pastora that we have in the Philippines. After she got married, her ministry just went downhill. Went downhill till she was removed from her post. So what happened there? God's answer to her prayer to have a husband became a hindrance, between her and God. Now you need to have a proper perspective on what the blessings of the Lord in your life mean to you. That's why we have to be very careful when we do altar calls or when we invite people to give their lives to Jesus. You want to be healed? Give your life to Jesus. So now the giving of the life to Jesus is predicated on the healing. When the sickness returns, they lose faith on Jesus. Sometimes you say you wanna prosper, give your life to Jesus. Now there's nothing wrong with these blessings. So when a person begins to have a dire need economically, they begin to hate Jesus. Well, I thought Jesus is true. How come I lost my money? Well, because your faith is predicated on material blessing. You give your life to Jesus because you love Jesus. Can you imagine being married? Okay, will you marry me? Why? Are you rich enough? I know who will be a fool to marry a person like that. Are you rich enough? Yeah, my dad is rich or my mom is rich. You marry me and you'll be okay. That's a bad reason for marriage. Because then the moment wealth is removed, then the love is also gone. Okay? So, there should be nothing that will stand between you and God. Even God's answer to your prayers. Now, I love my wife dearly, but I would not allow her to stand between me and God. Okay? I love my children dearly, and I always tell them they cannot love me the way I love them. But I will never allow my children to be a hindrance to my relationship with Jesus. That is just a decision I made. I used to be single. I don't have a wife and I don't have children, okay? And I love God. That love for God should never decrease because God gave me a wife. And God gave me 5 wonderful kids. It should not be a cause. I should not use them as a reason why I cannot serve Him. In fact, they should be some of the motivations for me to keep serving God. Because now truly I have seen that the Lord is good. And He had blessed me with His blessings. Second, you cannot make an idol out of God's answer to your prayers. Adam's excuse is the wife that you gave me. The boy was so lonely until God gave him a wife. But now you can say he made an idol out of his wife. His wife said, eat. He should have slapped her on her face. How dare you, woman, offer me something that the Lord forbade us to eat. But she just took it. Yeah, she just took it. Now, we may laugh at it, but how many people would gladly take whatever they are being offered because they say, I love that person? You know? Look at the temptations today among those who are dating. If you truly love me, you will sleep with me even if we are not married. Oh, sure. You are gladly taking the forbidden fruit. Now, if that is God's answer to your prayers, you have just made an idol out of God's answer to your prayers. I would not make an idol out of my wife nor out of my kids. Okay? Because I begin to compare them to God, they mean nothing. I mean, the way the Bible describes it, it will look like you hate them in comparison to how much you should love God. Oh, but today, those blessings that God gave us, a lot of people have turned them into idols. Third, God's answer to your prayers cannot be used as a reason to disobey God. I cannot do this. Well, God gave me this job. Why would God give me a job that if He doesn't want me to miss the service as well? You see, we have allowed. I cannot witness anymore because the place. You know, we went to graduation of DJ this morning. Northwestern University, to my knowledge, is founded by Methodists. Like UP was founded by a Methodist missionary woman. But not once was God mentioned in the speeches. DJ told me it was a convocation. That was not a convocation, DJ. That was a lie. Convocation always have prayers. It's a special thing. That's why it's a convocation. It was a lie. They sold something that is fake. It was not a convocation. There was no prayer. Okay? So, what's happening? This nation was blessed with a prestigious university like that. But now, it is being used as a reason to disobey. Well, God will not allow us to start this university. Remember this, the devil will steal, kill, and destroy. Whatever God gave you, he'll try to steal. Now, how does God steal what he gives you? He can steal it more easily if he will change its purpose. Okay? The moment, if God gives me children, the Bible says, I desire godly offspring. The purpose of God giving me children is so that He can entrust me with His children. They are my children, but they are God's children. If they start serving God, and I will say, well, God, you gave me these children. No, what God gave me, or what God is giving to us, are godly children. I want godly children. You see? That's why we forget that, well, God gave them. No, God is giving us, God wants you to raise godly children. If God tells you, love me, that means He gives you the ability to love Him. Okay? So when God says, I want godly children, what God is giving you, every seed coming out of your womb is godly in the sight of God or in the design of God. The devil will steal it and try to make it ungodly. The moment he succeeds in making it ungodly, then you have a choice. Whether you will have an idol out of that. I mean, I have no problem telling unbelievers that they are unbelievers. We have problem when it becomes our family. Because the devil had succeeded in helping us make an idol out of God's answer to our prayers. The best place where my family should be is when they are serving God. Not when they are doing something else. The moment you forget that, you have fashioned an idol out of a tree, okay, or out of a rock. You have used it, you have allowed it to be used for a purpose it was not designed to be. Trees were not designed by God so that somebody can fashion an idol and bow down to it and say, this is the God who took us out of Egypt to this land. No, that was meant to produce, that was meant for producing houses, that was meant for firewood so that you can be warm during the winter. That's it. It wasn't meant to be used as an idol. That's why when I'm eating outside and I'm done with eating and I will be forced to finish this food, I don't have to. Because the other command of the Lord is don't be gluttonous. Why will I allow somebody to use that blessing to make me a glutton? No. Well, God gave it. Yeah, but God also says, don't be a glutton. I'm not going to eat all of that just because it's on the table. It's a God's blessing, but I will not make an idol out of that food. I'll throw it in the garbage. You see? Now, some people are so foolish. Well, God gave this to us, I'll finish everything. But you're already bloating, for goodness sake. You're no longer eating. You're idolizing the food. You have turned what is God's blessing into something that can be a curse to you. That's why I have no problem walking away from a plate with food still in it. Now, I'm not saying that you guys do that. I'm just saying that you only take what you can eat, you know. But don't make an idol out of it. God will bless you, but don't make an idol out of it. Third, fourth, I'm sorry. Even God's answer to your prayers or the blessings that God gave you must be offered back to Him as a sacrifice. The moment God bless you with something, you offer it back to God. God blessed me with Joseph. I dedicated him to Jesus. Blessed me with John. Dedicated him to Jesus. Blessed me with DJ. Dedicated him to Jesus. Blessed me with James. I almost forgot. It's the next one. You know, dedicated him to Jesus. Blessed me with Joel. Dedicated him to Jesus. Yeah. Why? Because it's God's blessing to me. The moment God bless you with something, so that that blessing will not turn into an idol, you've got to give it back to Him. You gotta give it back to Him. If you don't give it back to Him, He cannot use it. God cannot use your idol. It's a competition. Are you following me? Are you still awake, guys? God cannot use your idol. He can only destroy it. Because God will never share His glory with any other person. So whatever God gave you a career, offer it to God. Lord, this is yours. Yours to be used. And when you give it to God, you're telling the Lord, I will never let the enemy twist the purpose of this blessing. I'll never let him. Okay, so you give it back to Him. You get married. You give your spouse back to God. You know, when I first got married, my wife doesn't like to testify. She doesn't like to be introduced. I never forced her. I have very few requirements from her. But she is God's. So I will always pray for my wife, and I will tell the Lord, Lord, you know, I never asked you for a wife that can preach or can teach, but gave me this wonderful woman. I love her, and she is yours. Well, the Lord started working on my wife. Yeah, started working on my wife. And the Lord changed her heart. You know, at one time when I was going to Hong Kong to do a marriage seminar, it wasn't an invitation to me. It was actually an invitation to my wife. The pastor's wife there talked to my wife and says, I want you and your husband, because she taught them. They liked what she taught, and she said, I want you and your husband to come back here and do a couples seminar. So I actually went there to do the couples seminar, not because they know me, although I have preached there a couple of times already, but because they have known my wife. They have heard my wife preach, and so they love what they heard, and they say, you ought to bring your husband. Maybe he can say something about it also. You know. But the schedule didn't permit, so she wasn't there, so they were not that happy. But I was there because of her. You see the turn of events? Now I don't go around saying, well, who is this woman? Why will she be invited before I'm invited? No, I'm not going to let the devil twist that. The Lord has blessed her. Every time I go to the Philippines now, people are asking, where is your wife? As if telling me, you have no business being here without your wife, you know. Now, I don't mind that at all. I don't mind that at all. Because now the Lord has worked in her life. Why? Because after the Lord gave her to me, I gave her back to God. That's why I would never allow her also to lead me to sin or to do something. She will be telling me she wants to celebrate. Oh, it's my mom's birthday. I said, no, she's dead. Really, my outlook on these things are simple. She's dead. She's now 81 years old. She's not. If you die at the age of 50, you're 50. You're not going to go 51 anymore. You know, you're going to go 0.
Why? Because from a full developed body, it'll return to dust, where you came from. That's below 1 year old. Oh, this 80th birthday. No, it's not. He died. That's my simple view of life. And my wife will, before she will tell me, she will insinuate to celebrate. No, we're not celebrating. Plain and simple. Because I would never let my wife lead me to something that is opposite of my conviction pertaining to the Scriptures. Do not make an idol out of God's blessings in your life. Okay? Next. To sacrifice them, okay? Even with everything that God blessed you with, you must still, okay? God fills you with things. You must still stand empty before the Lord. Now, this is the problem with most. The Lord blessed you, fill your barn, and now you stand before the Lord rich. That's your fall. You know why Job did not lament losing everything? Because he said, empty I came into this world, empty will I return. That's his perspective. Who is the person that is most full of God when he walked the earth? Jesus. Say it out loud. Jesus, yeah. The fullness of God dwell with him bodily. Who is the emptiest? Jesus also. Did you see that? He emptied himself. Though he is equal, he emptied himself. He is the most full of God. He is also the most empty. He emptied himself. The only way that God can fill you is if you are empty. If you are full of yourself, full of what God had blessed you with, He can no longer fill you. Yeah. That's why we end up protecting not our relationship with God, but the blessings God gave us. Now God wants to give us more, but we are full already. So we can no longer get anything more. We're full. But if you are empty, how do you empty yourself? By living sacrificial life. You're generous in the world's term to a fault. The moment you are living a generous life, you are always emptying yourself. And when you're always emptying yourself, God can fill you with more. Our problem is the Lord blesses us. And what happened? We get satisfied. We say, well, I'm already full. I'm set. I'm done. I'm not going to ask God for anything anymore. I have everything that I need. That means you have allowed yourself to become a Dead Sea. By the way, the Dead Sea has been shrinking for years. They are trying to revitalize it. The only way the Dead Sea can be revitalized, it will be revitalized, of course, at the second coming of the Lord is when He split the Mount of Olives and it will give way to water to travel to the Dead Sea. Then there will be an inflow of water. But for as long as it is self-contained, it keeps shrinking. When you are no longer giving out of yourself, when you are no longer generous, that's when you start to shrink. You are becoming smaller and smaller. You may still look rich, but no life can thrive in your presence because you have become self-contained and selfish. And so, you need to be always asking to be filled with God, filled with the Spirit, and at the same time being emptied all the time. That sounds contradictory. But that's how Jesus lived. Okay? Now, your faith must remain obedient. This is now a test also of timeless obedience. Okay? Genesis 22, let's start reading on verse 3. So Abraham got up early in the morning, saddled his donkey, and took with him two of his young men and his son Isaac. He split wood for a burnt offering and set out to go to the place God had told him about. On the third day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. So here on the third day, Isaac got resurrected on the third day. When Abraham left the camp with Isaac, in his mind, Isaac was already dead. Okay? And Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey. The boy and I will go over there to worship." Oh, you see the heart of Isaac was around 30. The boy and I will. That's a term. That's a term of affection. You know. I don't think I will outgrow calling my sons my boys. It's most tender. Well, as far as I'm concerned, okay? Because when you say that's my boy, it's your son, and it's an expression. He remains to be my dearly beloved son. And so he said, "My boy and I will go over there to worship." Later on, we'll break this even more. We will go over there to worship. Him and me will worship. The worship is through a sacrifice. So this already demonstrates that Isaac is a willing sacrifice. Yeah, he's empty. He's totally empty. He's out of life. And your life is a sacrifice only to God when you're empty. Okay? If you are still full of yourself, full of your activities, full of your own agenda, you are not a living sacrifice. I mean, some of us, God cannot even disturb us. Yeah, because we're so busy. God, how dare you, God, disturb me? I'm playing computer here, you know. I'm checking my emails. I'm shopping at Amazon. So how dare you? Time for service. I'm about to check out from Amazon. How dare you bother me? You see, you're so full of yourself, you can't be a sacrifice. You have to be empty. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and laid it on his son Isaac. In his hand, he took the fire and the knife, and the two of them walked on together. Look at this. So, hey, Isaac, carry the firewood for the sacrifice. So Isaac was carrying them. You know what Abraham was carrying? The knife and the fire. What's the knife for? To kill Isaac. What's the fire for? To burn him after he's dead. He did not give, look at this, he did not give the knife and the fire to Isaac. That doesn't belong to Isaac. Later on, when you picture God, it's the same thing that happened on the cross. Okay? Because Isaac cannot kill himself. That will be suicide. Okay. Now, the moment you're dead, you cannot burn yourself. There are certain things that the sacrifice must do, and there are certain things that only the one offering the sacrifice can do. Okay? Abraham, in this story, is just as obedient to God as when God first called him. Maybe more obedient, for now it involved his son. Abraham has always been obedient. Every obedience of Abraham empties himself. Okay? Go to the land, I'll show you. He emptied himself. Emptied of family, emptied of contacts and friends, emptied himself from the land from whence he was born. Okay? When Lot separated from him, he emptied himself from his affection to this boy, whom at one point I believe he thought would be his heir. Every time God tells Abraham to do something, he is always divesting himself of something. He is more empty than before. And sometimes I'm beginning to think that every sacrifice that God was requiring from Abraham is something that is beginning to fill him up. When you are beginning to look at His blessings in your life as an idol, God will ask for that. Because He will not appreciate any competition for His attention. Now, if nothing holds you, then your hands are free. You can always give them away. And it shows here that yes, he loves his son very much. But that love for his son is not enough to endanger his love for God. For Abraham, listen to this, nothing is too good or too much for God not to have. Okay? We have to be aware that there are some things that we have that we think is too much for God to have. That's too much. Don't do that. That's dangerous because then when you say that's too much, he doesn't deserve it. You know, I told you, if I buy a toy for my children, my wife will come in after the toy is delivered and says, "Oops, that's your birthday, okay? You can open it on Christmas." Not me. I don't know why parents do that. You torture your child, you know. The moment a toy arrives and they say, "Can I play with it?" That's what toys are for. You know. What if it get destroyed? That's what they are for. Can you imagine? Don't scratch it. Yes, I've worked with several people, and if I have a brand new tool, oh, it's brand new, I don't want to touch it. It's meant to be scratched. You know, I have no problem throwing my tools even if they're newly bought. That's what it's for. They're meant to be abused. They're meant to be used. They're meant to be scratched, to look ugly after some time. If you want to preserve them, then it will become your idol. Oh, it's so beautiful. Sometimes people have something that is so beautiful they won't let others touch it. They have a brand new car. Wife, don't sit there, okay? That's brand new. No, you love your car now more than you love your wife. You know, and then your son scratches your car and you curse at your son. You tell him unspeakable things. It becomes an idol. Now, of course, if your son is foolish and crashes your car all the time, then you crash him too, you know. But what I'm saying is, we have to be very careful of this. For Abraham, nothing is too good, nothing is too much, even if it is his only begotten son. By the way, when God gave his son, nothing is too much and too good for us also. Can you imagine God gave his son? Oh, that's too much, Lord. That's your son. Just sacrifice one of the angels, you know. No, man. This is how much God loves us. Nothing is too much. Nothing is too good. You have these foolish prayers. Lord, you know, I don't deserve it.
Knock out that nonsense, okay? Knock out that nonsense. He already gave his son. Nothing is too much. Nothing is too good. God will give you what you need and what you desire. Nothing is too much. Nothing is too good. You know, sometimes somebody get blessed and you say, that's too much. What too much? Why did he buy a Lamborghini? Because he can buy it. That's too much. You think God looks at your blessing and say, oh, that's too much. He already gave his son. Nothing is too much. Nothing is too good. Therefore, we must behave the same way. When God requires something from us, nothing is too much. Nothing is too good. The first king of Israel missed this. The women are too beautiful to be sacrificed. You know, the cows, the sheep is so fattened, the goats are so milky. We cannot burn them all. It's too good to be given to God. How do you know you are behaving like this? That's why we give our leftovers to God. Okay, we give our leftovers to God. We are so tired already. Okay, I've done everything that I did. I know, I'm so tired. We can go to church now. Maybe I can take a nap there. Yeah. We have given all of our strength. We have bought everything that we need, and there's a little bit more of money here. We can give it to God. That's wrong. You see. Because now we think that some things are too much, and sometimes we even have a logical answer that God doesn't need any of this. Of course He doesn't. He doesn't need anything. But love requires that nothing is too much for Him. Can you imagine Solomon giving thousands of animals for sacrifice? You say, well, only one is sufficient. But look at what God gave Solomon. I mean, the tons of golds and the tons of cedars from Lebanon and all the merchant ships from Tarshish and elsewhere that brings the best of the world during that time. And Solomon looked at that and said, whoa, God is giving me. God is not sparing anything. You know what the Bible says? If God did not spare His Son, how much more will He not freely give us everything? God spares nothing for me. You know. So you feel you need something, just tell the Lord, I need it. Nothing is too much. But we have to behave the same way. Okay? Saul missed it, and so he lost the kingdom. There came a point wherein, if you listen to the words coming out of the mouth of Saul, being a king and maintaining a dynasty became his idol. That he was willing to kill David, the new anointed king. He was willing to kill this newly anointed king now. Why? Because I would like to maintain a dynasty. Jonathan, it's your kingdom after me. You're next. And you dare be more loyal to David? No. Jonathan is not more loyal to David. He's more loyal to God. And Jonathan was willing. I have never seen a friendly love in the Bible stronger than Jonathan's for David. I mean, that is an amazing friendship. That he even defied his dad. And he even hated the throne. I'm not going to fight for that. David, you're number one. I'm number two. What a love, you know. By the way, husbands and wives have to be very careful. You know. Well, if you buy that, I'll buy this. Remember when was this? My kids bought my wife an Apple Watch. Now, I don't know what my wife felt during that time and my kids. So now they're asking me, do you want an Apple Watch too? No, I don't. Why would I care for an Apple Watch? If you think about it, I don't even need a watch. Why? Because there are certain watches that I like, but not an Apple Watch. I mean, it looks like an apple, you know. So, I mean,
Square. I don't know, some people are so fascinated with the thing. It never fascinates me. So my kids offered me, they say, Papa, you want an Apple Watch? No. I, did I feel envious that my wife has an Apple Watch? No. That's not something that me and my wife has. Yeah. She hates my shoes because, and my daughter too. And I don't know how many times my wife told me, we'll go buy you shoes. No. No, I don't say, well, she bought a couple of shoes. Who cares? Maybe she's got more than one pair of feet, you know. I mean, it's nothing between me and my wife. I don't say, well, you bought new clothes. She told me this. I bought you new shirts. Now, I didn't jump all over the place. Let me see the shirt. For goodness sake, my kids can wear them if they want. It doesn't, I don't know, it's just, there's no attraction to it. Let me wear it. Is it? No, it's just, it's not there. You see? And I'll tell you this, my wife doesn't withhold any good thing from me. Yeah. She doesn't. It's not something that is an object of envy for us. And sometimes, by the way, that is why couples have problems. Well, you bought that, I'm going to buy mine. Why? Why do you have to do that? You are now competing to each other. That is no longer love. Okay? You should be happy. My wife sometimes will go, hey, sweetheart, does it look good to me? Whoa, that looks great. Now I don't go around saying, where's mine? I'm just happy that she looks great. I mean, who among the husbands wants your wives to look awful? Oh, wife, you look ugly. Good. I will look. No sane husband would love to make their wives look miserable or ugly. And I love it when my wife looks beautiful. It makes me feel proud. I don't say, well, your makeup is too expensive. By the way, you know, some men wear makeup now. Why would you do that? I don't say my wife has expensive makeup, I'm going to buy mine. Forget it. I'm happy with my face. That's it, you know. Can't do anything about it anymore. Now, if she wants to beautify herself, whoa. I love it, you know. I mean, I'm not going to look at you guys, but how many of you here wants to have an ugly-looking wife? I mean, there's got to be something wrong with your head, you know. Verse 5 tells us the degree that the faith of Abraham had grown. This is amazing to me to watch this. I would love to walk with Abraham because from the outside, and learn this, it really doesn't look like he's growing that much. Yeah. Look at Abraham from the outside. It doesn't look like he's growing that much. Okay. He had grown his wealth, right? Oh, Abraham, you're more wealth now. Well, because I'm a good manager. You want to learn how? You want to learn how to raise camels? You want to learn how to milk the goat so it will be more efficient? Nothing will drop to the ground? No. Yeah, this is an amazing. So, from the outside, Abraham, if he is a proud man, if he is full of himself, will explain everything out. Yeah, because I learned from Egypt how to milk the cows properly. Whoa, with 318 soldiers, you beat different kings. I'll show you how to train your men like SEAL team people. No, he believed it's God. He did not explain. He believed it's God's. This is a temptation for us. The moment the Lord start using us and blessing us, we now, and this is the temptation that happened to Israel, we now begin to think it's because of us. We are so good. We have a degree. We know how to manage things. So now all glory belongs to us. Okay? And so now we become our idol. That's why some people begin to think of themselves more highly than you ought. If you are empty of yourself, you will never think of yourself more highly than you. Why? Because you are empty. The reason why you believe everybody should pay attention to you and you should get everything that you want from others is because you are so full of yourself. You have turned yourself into a god. You have turned yourself into an idol, your own idol. Yeah. I was reading this. No, not reading. Maybe I watch it on YouTube. I don't know where I get this information. But it's out there, you know. It has come to me that I think after Tom Cruise, his former wife, the Batman girl, what? Katie Holmes, okay, got divorced. Katie says one of the hobbies of Tom Cruise, whenever he travels, is collect dolls of himself. Now, can you imagine that? He collects dolls of himself from different countries. I know what he does with them. Maybe worship them. Oh, I look handsome. No. I think I prostrate my wife too much because you've been to our house. Have you seen how many pictures of us there are displayed there? Whatever is displayed there, it's my wife's doing, not mine. You think I'm interested in displaying my picture? I don't even want to look at myself, you know. But some people are so full of themselves, they can't get enough of themselves. Can you imagine this guy? He is Tom Cruise. He's buying dolls of Tom Cruise. Hey, sales lady, I'll get that doll. What doll? Tom Cruise. Sir, you are Tom Cruise. Yeah, I want that doll. Because he's so full of himself. Yeah. They fight for, and from the words of Jesus, when you go to a banquet, don't take the important seat. Take the lowly seat. You will only take the lowly seat if you are empty. If you are not, you will take the most prestigious seat. Then you will be demoted. So here, from the outside, there's nothing extraordinary about Abraham. But boy, don't push this man. Because his faith has the ability to give birth to nations. His faith, it may not look like it, can bring back to life that which is dead. Okay? That is Abraham. From the outside, looks extremely ordinary. It looks from the outside like he was just a shepherd, tending his flock, knows how to keep them healthy. But if you ask Abraham, he will tell you, God keeps my flock healthy. God gives strength to my workers. Well, he gives them a day off and all of those things, you know. So this is, now at this point, look at how much Abraham has grown in the faith. None of the blessings that God gave him turned into an idol. None. None of the blessings that God gave him made him full of himself. He remained empty. Okay? Look at the faith of Abraham. Abraham assured his servants that him and Isaac will come back. By the way, in some translations, after they come back, they say that this boy became a man. When they came back, the stature of Isaac changed. I mean, he came back to life. You know, so this is an amazing thing. Me and my boy will come back. You're holding the fire. You're holding the knife. When you left the camp, you didn't even kiss your wife goodbye. You know, you just took off. And by the way, it's a 3-day journey. So poor Sarah, he woke up that morning, Abraham, where are you? And he asked one of the servants. Thank God she was old. She went back to sleep, you know. That's what old people do. But what a faith! His faith has truly grown when you are, listen to this carefully, okay? You know that your faith has grown because when you are giving, you don't think you are subtracting from yourself. Yeah. You know why our faith is so weak? Because when we give, we say, I have nothing more for this. I could have bought that. You are subtracting. That is not faith. Abraham said this, me and the boy will come back. Nothing is being taken from him. His faith dictates that. You see, the reason why we cannot give, we think something is being taken from us. Have you ever seen a farmer? Let me put it this way. Have you ever seen a farmer? He is planting on his field and he was crying. One more sack, gone. Second sack, gone. Have you ever seen a farmer cry? He is most happy when he's planting. Because he is not actually subtracting, he is multiplying. That's the essence of giving. The reason why we cannot give is because we think something is being taken from us. Abraham doesn't think that way. That's not faith. When you give, you are not nothing is being taken from you. You are planting your seed, so to speak. And that seed is very exciting to plant because seeds grow. A seed, unless it is planted in the ground and dies, will never come back to life and give more. But these are seeds. Yeah. So Abraham was not actually thinking, well, God told him, you'll be the father of many nations. Boy, the seed his son is about, and he's the seed of the woman, so to speak. This seed is about to be planted on the ground. I'm going to have my nations. Sometimes we're thinking, I'm giving $100. No, you're not. You're planting a seed. And that seed is going to keep growing and growing. Yeah, but something is being taken away from you. Nothing. If a farmer plants on his ground, question, is something taken from him? No, it's your ground. Can you harvest from another man's field? It's illegal. You're stealing. It's your ground. You are not losing anything. It's in your ground. It's in your field. He did not say, oh, the ground is stealing from me. No, you don't. What are you, a fool? It's your ground. Whatever grows there is yours. Nothing is being taken from you. But if you are full of yourself and you don't have the faith to give, something is being taken from you. When my father-in-law saw the receipt that the church in the Philippines issued my wife on her gift, he got upset. Are you that rich that you're giving this much? Oh, but when I was talking to my wife about that, she said, actually, it's very little compared to what the Lord is blessing me with. And she said, the more I give, the more I receive. That's a different perspective. But the father who doesn't have the faith says, why are you wasting your money? No farmer will say, I'm wasting my seed. You see, it's faith outlook. So when you begin to look and you cry, you are not a farmer. You're a customer. Yeah. You said that's another bowl of rice. It's another bowl of rice. Another bowl of rice. You know, the moment you cast that seed, you know you're not going to eat that seed anymore. Okay? The moment you plant a seed, that seed you will not eat anymore. But the reproduction, the resurrection of that seed is what you will eat. And it's a lot more than that little seed that you planted. That's why, if you're a good farmer, you don't eat your seed. You plant it, you don't eat it, okay? What a faith. The servants knew, because when it says that Abraham prepared the woods, it didn't mean he prepared them, because the servants cut the wood, of course. The servants knew that that item they brought is for burnt offerings. Abraham knew it is for burnt offerings. Isaac knew it's for burnt offerings. Yet he assured them that they will come back. The amazing thing is the conversation between Abraham and Isaac. Dad, the altar is here. The fire is here. The wood is here. Where is the sacrifice? You know, I'm meditating on that. Why in the world would Isaac ask that? Where is the sacrifice? They did not bring a lamb. They did not bring a bull. They did not bring any animal sacrifice except the donkey that they used to roll it with. Dad, have you ever heard a donkey sacrifice in the Bible? They're not used for sacrifice. Dad, everything is here. Where is the sacrifice? Isaac is confirming what he already knew. Lord, if it's possible, Father, if it's possible, let this cup pass over me. But not as I will. But Dad, am I really going to be the sacrifice? Will you let this pass? Let this cup pass over me. Not as my will, though. Because remember, when Isaac, altars will be like this tall. Abraham will not be able to lift a 30-year-old man and put him on the sacrifice. What he told Isaac is, go there. And the Bible says he bind him. Why in the world did he bind him? Isaac, I will bind you. The boy jumped already. He went to the altar. Dad, not as I will, but as you will. We'll talk more about that as we progress, okay? He believed that God must bring Isaac back to life. He's already believing for the resurrection of Isaac. Where in the world did this faith come from? You know, we have the 66 books of the Bible. We have all the testimonies of miracles. And I look at Abraham, where did this faith come from? But I think his journey from the land of Ur to Haran to the promised land, that walk of faith is what nurtured his faith. It was enough. He was just holding on. Hey, boss, when are you going to build your house? You're already very wealthy. Well, I'm looking for a city whose builder and architect is God. What is that, boss? God showed me. Hey, boss, are you going to drive the stakes so it will be yours? And Abraham will say, no, the whole land is mine. What land, boss? Everything that my eyes can see. You see, his faith, when you begin to walk with God, your faith is very vital. It's very vibrant. It keeps claiming, it keeps plowing, it keeps moving. That's why you heard me say the other week. In the journal of my wife, the only thing that does not happen yet is a university that we're believing God for. And I told you some time ago that there's still another building in my spirit concerning this house. Now you will notice that I keep saying, talking to God, am I just laying the foundation? Will the next generation of faith community in Lion's Heart, will they be the one to execute this? The reason why I'm asking this is because of this knowledge that I'm receiving from the Lord. You know, you and your offspring. The offspring will continue to sustain the arrival of the blessings. That's why in our last lesson, you need to raise godly children. Or that's it, kaputs. You know, that's it for you. Your children has got to inherit your faith. They have to be raised in the fear of the Lord. Then the promise of God, which is transgenerational, will be fulfilled in your life. But if you raise ungodly kids, that's it. God has to raise others. But that's it. You know. It is here that Abraham also was introduced to Jehovah Jireh. Let's look at Genesis 22, verse 7. Then Isaac spoke to his father Abraham and said, "My father." And he replied, "Here I am, my son." Isaac said, "The fire and the wood are here, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Abraham answered, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." You see this? Abraham looked at his son as a lamb. Then the two of them walked. Some people say, well, he's thinking about Jesus. No, Abraham was not thinking about Jesus. His knowledge is not that far, okay? It was the lamb is his son, okay? Abraham answered, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." Then the two of them walked on together. When they arrived at the place that God had told him about, Abraham built the altar and arranged the wood. He bound his son Isaac and placed him on the altar on top of the wood. Then Abraham reached out and took the knife to slaughter his son. That's a strong language. Now, first notice how obedient Isaac was. He was in his 30s. He could have easily escaped. Even as I told you, when they were on the Mount of Olives, Jesus could have gone south and go to the Dead Sea area and he will disappear. But he did not. Instead, Isaac placed himself on the altar because Abraham doesn't have the strength to do this. He could not even carry the wood. Isaac has to carry the wood. The obedient example of Abraham produced an obedient son in Isaac. Okay? Now, Isaac at this point seems to be just a laughing boy, you know. He seems like a boy that when he's hungry, "Mommy, I need milk," a goat will be milked. I mean, the life of Isaac is just like a life of peace. From the looks of it, it doesn't look there is that much challenged, except one or two. You know, the biggest headache of Isaac was Esau marrying Canaanites. That's his biggest headache. What else is his headache? A well? No. The Lord blessed him with water. Famine? No. The Lord spoke to him and said, you plant. So that's not his biggest challenge of Isaac is actually when he began to see Esau and Jacob going at it. And it's most painful, of course, to parents when their kids are fighting. And that's, I think, the most challenge that Isaac has. But here, what we can see is Isaac's faith is stronger than we think and more mature than we think. For him to allow himself to be the sacrifice. You know, how many of you, how many children will even be obedient to their parents and call it a sacrifice? A lot of kids would want to be independent from their parents. Isaac was a full-grown man. And yet, he left a place in his heart for his dad to still speak to him. At the age of 30, Abraham can still tell Isaac, "Carry the wood." You know, Abraham can still tell Isaac, "We're going to go for a walk tomorrow. Wake up early in the morning." Will I tell mom? No, don't wake up your mom. There is a voice. Listen to me, children. Your parents needs to maintain a voice in your heart. The moment you lose that, you are losing something big. Because the voice of authority should not be removed from your spirits. These liberal, progressive things that children wants to be independent from their parents is from the devil. It was never meant by the Lord to be like that. We are supposed to stay connected, and the voice of authority has got to remain. So, people say, Abraham offered a sacrifice. Yeah, I know that. But we're missing something. It was not only Abraham who offered a sacrifice. Isaac walked with his dad. They both offered the sacrifice. Not only did Isaac offer the sacrifice, because if you think about it, who's get the more sacrifice? Isaac made himself the sacrifice. So the faith of Abraham grew. Oh, but this Isaac boy, very silent, very unassuming, but his faith has grown. I like what Bishop John Jimenez said when he was collecting offerings. He said, who will give 1,000? And some of the drug addicts, former drug addicts, oh, and Bishop John, whoa, I'm cooked, he said. But they're the ones who comprise the giving element for their building. And he never thought it would happen, but their faith has grown. And so have you noticed this, that Isaac was basically, all his life was living in peace. After Jesus told the father, okay, not my will, but as you will, and all of those things. After he told the disciples in his teachings, nobody takes my life, I'm giving it away. Look what he did in John 15. My peace, I leave to you. You know who can give us the peace? On the natural, soldiers who live the most turbulent of times. Only the politicians can't give us peace. Only the soldiers can give us peace. Because they are willing to shed their blood for that peace. After Jesus said, nobody can take my life away, that is when he told his disciples, my peace I leave to you. Yeah, my peace I leave to you. Perfect peace is achieved in giving the perfect sacrifice. And this is where Jehovah Jireh appeared in this context. Let me read to you the last passage, okay, so I don't have to come back to this next week. I can go to the next prophet. 22 verse 11. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. He replied, here I am. Then he said, do not lay a hand on the boy or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your only son from me. Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught in the thicket by its horns. So Abraham went and took the ram and offered it as a burnt offering in place of his son. And Abraham named that place, the Lord will provide, or Jehovah Jireh. So today it is said, it will be provided on the Lord's mountain. Then the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven and said, by myself I have sworn, this is the Lord's declaration, because you have done this thing and have not withheld your only son, I will indeed bless you and make your offspring as numerous as the stars of the sky and the sand on the seashore. Your offspring will possess the city gates of their enemies. And the gates of hell will not prevail against it. You know, we claim that verse, that is only possible when you offer your ultimate sacrifice. This is a very delicious lesson, you know, but it's 8:04, so let me continue. And all the nations of the earth will be blessed by your offspring, because you have obeyed my command. Abraham went back to his young men, and they got up and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham settled in Beersheba. Now listen to this. Abraham was able to become a blessing to all the world because he became most empty. When he lost his son in his heart, that is his most empty moment of life. My son Isaac is dead. That's when he was most empty. And God says, then I will truly bless you and you will bless the world. Look, if we are full of ourselves, forget about blessing the world. We cannot. It's got to be by the ultimate sacrifice. You want to walk with Abraham? You want to walk with the prophets? This is how it's done. Nothing is too good. Nothing is too much for God. You withhold nothing from the Lord. Then you can walk with Abraham. Amen? Let's learn something tonight. Praise God. Let's all stand.